suppliers, we make sure we know that there must be base. Before you start with the production, there should be base. So we have the base in this gallon. Then there should be a scale, the scale to measure. Then we should have the thickener, we should have the glycerin, and we should have the foam booster. So after that, we should have the salt. So we have the salt in the sack there. That's the salt there. Then we'll use this to fetch the salt. So from the start, when we are coming to produce 1 kilo of the base, will contain 0.1 of the salt. So in view of that, since we are coming to produce um, 4 kilograms of the base, it means we are using 3.2 of the salt for that particular this particular production. So in view of that, we have hot water and cold water. So they are here. So very soon we'll be mixing the hot water with salt and thickener. Then in the cold water too, we'll be putting preservative inside, and then the preservative helps to keep the product to keep long, and also prevent it from spoiling. Then the thickener also help to make the soap to be thick to the quality of which we want. So these are some of the basic things that when you want to start with the production, you need to know before you start.
You are using 3.2.
3.2. So after that, you put this 3.2 away into the hot water. So you put it into the hot water. Then after putting it into the hot water, you make sure it dissolves. So we will use the spatula to stir the water. So we will stir the water with the salt. So the whole salt dissolves. Then after that, we will sieve it. We sieve it because the salt is a local salt. And since it is a local salt, we sieve it in order to remove the debris so that the product will be of a quality standard. It is assumed, or you can now see that the salt is dissolved. So we'll be pouring it here to sieve it in order to remove the debris from the quality product.
Yes. Okay.
So this is the sieve. This is the dissolved salt and hot water. So after sieving it, you add the thickener to it.
So what do you sieve it?
We sieve to remove the
The impurities. see the impurities are
Yeah.
under.
So if a
Water.
layman do not understand why we see, the picture alone will show you the reason why. So these are the impurities we were preventing of entering into the quality product.
Add.
So after this, we will be adding the thickener. So you pause it. So this is the thickener. This is how the color looks. So we'll be adding this to the hot water.
So do you measure or you just pour?
We will measure.
Okay.
I want to get the measuring cylinder. So this is the thickener, then this is the measuring cylinder. So we'll be measuring full of this. So this one of these cup where the last marks is 1 cup. So if you are asked to measure 1 cup and you pick this cup, you just measure till this arc, then you stop there. That's 1 cup. And today we are producing 8. The 8 is 4-4. So the 4-4, we will be measuring 4 of the liquid soap, the base, which is the spread. So due to that, each of the kilogram, 1 kilogram of the base will take 1 kilogram of a thickener. So in view of that, since we are measuring 4, we will measure 4 of this cylinder into the hot water. So sometimes it is appropriate you put it on a flat surface so that you get the accuracy. So this is one. So we have 4. So that is the last one. So after putting it inside, we are now having the hot water and the thickener. So now the water will change to milky when you stir it.
Like this.
The cover.
This is the base.
So this is the base. So another point to consider when buying or using the base, the first thing to do is to check the expiring date. So when you check here, we have about 3 or 4 months for this to expire. So it means that we are supposed to produce all this material and sell before the expiring date. Else we can't use the rest of the leftover. So this is the base. So anytime you finish using the base, you cover it like this very nicely before you use this lead to also cover it, so that it will be at its quality standard. So now we open. we now open the base and then we fetch. So we use the base. So we fetch the base, then we now wait. So that is it. So that is 1 kilo. So we are going to so that is it. So you pour. So because of the weather here, when you pour the base, you cover it so that it will not cake.
So that's 4 kilograms.
Yes, 4 kilogram. So that's the 4 kilogram. So we are supposed to weigh another 4 kilogram, but because we are learning, we would like to use one to finish with the production. Then later we proceed with another one. So after that, you put it inside, and then you wash the things very nicely and put them at a safe place. So before you continue, you cover this, and then you also cover the one in the so you cover it very well. And then you put this on top. So this is the preservative. So the preservative, it saves the material. It prevents it from sporage. So whenever we are having the production, you use either 1 spoon or 5 grams into the cold water that is being measured. So we have the cold water here, and we will be putting the preservative inside. So we use this one. Choky scent. So when you are doing it and the fan is on, you make sure you on your fan. You off your fan before you use it. So that is it. So now you now put it in the water. and then it will dissolve. So we're using this. So this is half. Then this one is also half. In addition with it becomes one. But sometimes we increase the number depending on the thickness of the soap. So if it is becoming light, that is when we mostly use this. But if it is too thick, then we use the full bucket. So we not fetch one of these. We'll be using this to be fetching one. Then you pour it in. So because we are starting, we would like to start with the accurate measurement. So you come here and you measure. We are supposed to use 2 buckets of the hot water to produce this material. So now we'll fetch one and later we'll add the additional one. So we are fetching the hot water and the thickener. So now it's no longer a hot water, but it's now a thickener. So before you fetch, you stir it. You make sure it mix. Then you fetch. So you fetch like this. Then you pour it. So we cover it because it is hot and we don't want it to be cool. And also sometimes to prevent impurities. So we are now coming to start with the production. And there are some things to note here. Sometimes when you start with the production, you see it goes straight. When you are producing, you will not encounter any challenge. But when the thickener keeps, like we put it there for a long period of time, sometimes you'll be doing it and it will cake. But when it happens like that, just do not be disturbed or something like that. We have a way of also managing it. So as we are coming to start and there is that challenge, then it means we will give the other strategy for that. But if not, then we will finish before later we will talk or we will talk about that. So, yeah, so now we are coming to stay. So now we are going to stir the material. So this is the base or the stretch. So when you are going to your left, you make sure you finish till the end of the product. You go left. Then when you are going right, you make sure you go right till we finish with the product. So as I have started like this, I will stir to some point. When I realize it is mixed, then I'll put hot water inside, like 3 of the um, measuring cylinder. Then later I'll add 4 of the measuring cylinder. Then I'll follow with another hot water. So if it goes on like that, you realize that when you are putting the hot water, which is the thickener, it will become thick. Then you add the cold water, which will make it to be light. So when it is becoming light again, you pour the hot water. So you'll be doing that until the final product. So now we are mixing. So from the beginning, you will realize that the soap was not whitish as it is now, but now it is becoming whitish. So as I'm stirring it, from any moment from now, we may be adding the hot water to it. The hot water, which is the thickener, to it. Then when it is becoming too thick, we will add cold water. Then when we add the cold water and it's becoming too light, we will add the thickener or the water to it again.
Which stage will this one reach before you add the hot water?
The thickener already. From now we can add some.
That will be 2 cups, followed by
3, 4.
3, 4.
Yeah, 3, 4. From the initial stage is 3, 4. And our instructor told us to always start with hot water and end with hot water. But there have also been some occasions we had a challenge starting with hot water and we had problem. But we were able to find a solution to that. So in case as we are doing, it happens like that through the process of this production, then we will be applying that new formula I am talking about. But if not, then we will go by this and later we will teach that one. So now you can add. So looking at how this thing is going, it is likely it can be hard.
This is 300 ml cup. 300 ml cup. So we'll add 3 of these.
So you make sure you pour it inside again before you first. Yeah, so you bring it first.
So when you are pouring, you pour at the
wall,
at the side,
so that it will not at the beginning foam.
That's 1.
So you wait and you make sure this one mix well. Then after mixing, then so like how this one is becoming, it is likely it will be hard from the initial stage. So if it become hard, then it means we will be using different method for this. So it happens mostly because of the weather condition here. To add the other one. So all right. So actually it's not supposed to be so, but this is how it has become. So when it comes like that, you just take heart, you be patient with yourself and you work on it, and at the end you get the quality product.
can also use machine.
Yes, we can also use machine, but we are having an electrical problem here, so that's why we are not using our machine today. But this one is the manual, so this is the manual process, and the machine too, the process is a bit different from that of the manual. So now it has caked, and since it caked, the formula will be changing on the way. So if we are producing like that and something happening as such, and maybe you are a new member, you just take heart and you go for the manual. We have a manual that these things has been documented inside. We experienced this since last year, so we're able to rectify and create a solution for it. So you, after reading the manual, you'll be able to find a solution to it. You had another water. So the manual sometimes needs a technical know-how. So this is the third one. The manual sometimes needs a technical know-how and also need work. It's labor intensive because sometimes you need to apply your strength. So this is how it is. So now we are going with the cold water.
The cold water to is it 3?
The cold water will be 4. So now it's coming to its normal. We bring another water.
This is the second one.
Bring another one.
So this is the third one.
This is the third one.
So this is where sometimes the formula changes. We are supposed to add another thickener and or the hot water, but because it is still hard and there are balls inside, we continue with the cold water until it's becoming lighter. Then we begin to add another thickener. So this is for you to note that the thickener always make the soap to be hard or thick. It makes it to be thick. So now we are adding additional cold water. So from here we don't count which is the fourth one. So from here we just follow the thickness and then we apply the rest of the formula. So this is where sometimes the formula of the production changes when the thing becomes hard.
Becoming thick.
Yeah, so still we add the cold water. Yes. So you can see now it's becoming light. So when it becomes like that, that is when you can now be thinking of adding the thickener or the hot water to it. So whenever the water is being poured inside, you make sure it mix well before you add another one, so that when there is a problem, you will be able to rectify it before the next stage. But when you keep on adding the water, the whole product will be watery, and you cannot do anything about it. So now you can add the. So anytime you fetch the thickener, you make sure you pour inside before you fetch again, so that it will mix. So the water they are just pouring inside is a hot water, and it's mixed with salt and thickener. So as you are doing and you have questions, you can also be asking.
So why is it that the steering goes one way? You don't change it.
Yeah, when it go the other direction, it becomes hard and you can't control it.
To cake.
Yes, but when it goes like this, when it cake, you can still have something to do about it. So from our school of thought, we were asked to always go in one direction. When you want to examine this, maybe when you are doing some for you to use in the house, you can try it. So you realize that at the end, when you are adding the color and also you are adding the fragrance, you cannot turn it. You'll be struggling with it. So it is appropriate you go in one direction.
This is still thickener
Thickener,
mixed with salt
salt, dissolve salt,
and hot water.
and hot water. So now it is becoming thicker. Therefore, we add another cold water to it. Sometimes the production is time consuming, but that is the only way you can obtain a good result. So he's pouring the cold water in mixture with the preservative. Preservative. Good. So whenever they pour the cold water, you see the material or the product is becoming lighter. Then when we add the thickener, it becomes harder. So you add another thickener.
The thickener always look milky.
Yes.
Hey, Vianney, Vianney.
Charlie, I don't have finished. The thickener.
Thickener.
Yes.
Why don't you turn it like this? Like this? Because if you copy this on laptop, it will turn like this. It will be straight. You will turn it.
So at this stage, we are supposed to put more of the cold water with the preservative. But because it caked, when we are going forward, it reaches a place that it is difficult for it to be hard again. So there we rather increase the thickener, which is the hot water, the salt, and the thickener, rather than the cold water. So when we are going and it becoming harder, that is when we add the cold water now one by one instead of it becoming frequent. So you add another thickener first.
Thickener is almost gone.
Yeah. So we have excess there. So you bring the code, give it the code. What for?
The cold water always makes it light.
We are not going to do that. Cold water. So when it finish, you go back and fetch again.
That's the measurement. You open this one. Cover. Water too. That's the measurement. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Get a chance. Is it 90? A1.
You'll be getting 20 gallons or 23 gallons.
Or 88. Johannes, on your carrot.
I like it.
Oh yeah.
Keep quiet. Ah, this is the reason why I wanted you to leave this place. Okay, I want to big only say about video.
I can download the app so that you can compress and cut. My other phone, I was having that phone.
Cold water.
So for how long are you going to stay till you stop staring and you add other things?
That's when the water we measure for the production is finished.
So how many buckets of?
So you left with 2 buckets.
So use 4 of the hot, 4 of the cold.
You are supposed to use 2 of the
Two of
hot.
the cut.
And then
Okay.
4 of the cold.
And we have now used only 2 of
Yes.
the cold. Hey.
This is the 2. So this thing happened because of the caking. So even when it happens like that, sometimes you have to require for more thickener. So if we finish with this and it's still not thick, then we have to make sure that we add another thickener to get the actual thickness. So that is why I was saying when it happens like that, sometimes the accuracy of the production changes. So that is another one and another factor.
Thickener.
So no, you bring the code. So when the cold water is becoming more than the thickener, you realize that the product is becoming lighter. So in order to solve this solution, then you add the thickener to it. So you bring code. You feel it. Then when the spatula, then when it's becoming thick too, you feel it. So you feel it on the
So
spatula.
the machine, if you are using machine, how do you
So the machine, for the machine we
use your eye?
not the eye, we use time. So the machine is every 15 minutes you add a cold water to it. And also for the machine, we mix everything down. So we just be pouring it on it. So every 15 minutes we have what to pour on it.
Wonder why the man is shut down. Can you use cold water to mix the thickener? Is it always hot water that you have to use to mix the thickener?
And what I was taught, we always use the hot water to mix the thickener. So that's what we have been using. I didn't try the opposite. you put it straightforward in the cold water, it will not melt. It will just be in the cold water like that. But you can pour the thickener straightforward into the product like this. And that one, when you stir, it will be okay. But when you put it in the cold water like that, it will not melt and become milky as how the hot water does. Cold water. And also the thickener, we have some that is a powder. It is in a powdered form. We use that to produce before, and we have some here in our shed. However, we prefer using the liquid one as compared to the powdered one because of some little challenge we have in the previous productions.
So when going to buy it, you have to be specific.
Yes, you have to be specific, and also the marketers or the tailors before they issue the material for you.
So where do you think you can get all these products?
So we have two places at Tamale. We normally buy this. One is at the Metro Mass station. Before you enter the station, before you branch to the Metro Mass station, we have one this thing there, one enterprise there that deal with these materials.
You deal with soap ingredients.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I want because if I'm not in Tamale, if I am in Hohoi, I am in Ho, or I'm in Agbarahoya Pando, I want to produce this the same product, but where will I get them? That's why I'm asking.
All right. So for what I know here is in Tamale, and that's what I was asking is at the Metro Mass when you are branching to the Metro Mass station, and then one two is at the market side when you are going to the hospital.
But we can get
these
ingredients from those who sell soap material or ingredients.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. But in case those areas you do not get some, especially at Pando, and you like to come to buy some at Accra, maybe you just go to Dansuma or Dankuma market, then you get some at affordable price. That's where they sell those things at affordable price. But when you come to Circle, though you get, but the prices increase. Yes.
But one may ask, so if I want to go into this as a small scale business, how much am I to hold in order to produce these?
When we talk about small scale business here, that one the individual has to define before we can also give an advice on that, because now before you make the sale of the liquid soap, you need to be satisfied by the FDA and the Ghana standard. So in view of that, when you are starting with that, certified with the FDA or the standard board.
FDA Ajeotun.
So in view of that, when someone would like to go into that, then the person has to first go and register, and in the registration alone will cost like 1,000 Ghana cedis.
No, I cannot register if I am not doing it.
So they're doing
because they have to test, they have to see samples of my product before they can certify me. So without the production or without the product, you cannot certify me.
Okay.
So that is the reason. So for one to be able to produce this for certification, how much are we looking at? How much are we looking at?
Okay, so I would say looking at the price of the things and the market, 1,500 can do. Yeah,
1,500.
1,500 can do.
Okay.
Yes.
Which means 1,500
Can
can
get
buy
you
a base.
no. It can buy a base, but not as big as this.
Yes.
Because this one costs at 2,000.
Yeah. So 1,500 can get us a base.
A base.
Can get us
A thickener.
can get us preservatives.
Yes, and then foam booster.
And foam booster.
Color.
Color.
Yes, and glycerin.
Okay. Glycerin.
Plus the measuring cylinder.
No.
Which one come? Which one come? It's becoming thick. So how is this calibrated? This bucket calibrated? How is it calibrated?
So first of all, before you calibrate this, we have different type of production. So when you are producing 1 grams, 1 kilogram of the base
Of the base here.
of the base
1 kilogram of the base.
then you come and calibrate the 1/2. That
Half.
is the first mark.
That is this first
The
mark.
first mark.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are producing the full one, which is the 2 or the 1,
Which is 2
yes,
kilogram.
2 kilograms
Kilogram of
of
base.
the base. That is when you use the full bucket.
That is where you use full bucket.
Yes.
Okay. But did you just pick marker and then you roll a line around this or what?
No. A measurement were obtained.
Which measurement? How did you calibrate it? How did you calibrate
These
it?
calibrations were done by my in charge, who is not with us here. But according to him, he used the beam balance scale.
Which is the electronic one.
Electronic one.
That's what he used.
Used for this.
Okay, so he puts an empty bucket on the electronic scale,
He
on it, and then
pour
pour water inside.
Yes.
Then to obtain these values.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's fine. That's fine. It's light.
thick, but because we just put this water inside and the water is moving, so
Raise
that
the spatula, let me see the thickness.
so it's not fully mixed. So you will not see any sign of the thickener,
Mm.
and also. But after this, we'll be putting that we'll be putting glycerin into the water and then foam booster. So after that, you realize that when you raise it, you'll be seeing how stitchy it is. So one aim of the glycerin is that when you put the glycerin inside, it make the soap to be slippery and it help the foam booster to foam well. So that is the reason why we put in the glycerin. Now you realize that sometimes when you wash your hand with the liquid soap, your hand will be sticky. And then it means that the glycerin is not sufficient in the base or the production. So when you finish, you realize that your finger or your hand is dried. So when it happens like that, you prompt the producers. The next time when they are working on it, they make sure they increase the glycerin. Yeah. In our production, we are mostly careful because we don't have a separate production. And when I say separate production here, I mean in terms of the production, we are supposed to produce one for mopping and also one for washing hand. But due to our manual production, we make sure we produce it well so that it can be used for mopping and also used for washing hand. Why am I saying that? I'm saying this because when we are using it for mopping, the glycerin is supposed to be less so that the ground will not be slippery. Uh-huh. So in terms of that, in order for for us to be able to use it to mop and to wash hand, we make sure we do a accurate calculation before we put in the glycerin so that when they use to mop on the tiles, people will not be falling. Yeah. So now when we have reached we would like to continue with the foam booster. Then after the foam booster, we'll be continuing with the glycerin. So now what we are coming to do is that we use 4 grams or 4 kilograms for the production. That's of the base. So in view of that, we'll be using 4 cups, which is the mystery cylinder. We'll be using 4 cups of this cylinder to pour the glycerin into the foam booster into the production. So we are coming to pour the foam booster.
It seems all of them here are of the same color. So how do you differentiate that this is foam booster, this is glycerin, and this is thickener?
So in order to know this is the foam booster, this is the thickener, we have the characteristics. So first you check the color, then also you check the stature of it. So now this is the foam booster. This is how it looks in the gallon. So when you are pouring, you realize that it is a bit sticky. Uh-huh. Then this is the foam booster. The foam booster, what you are pouring is in a watery form, a bit thick but a watery form. When we are separating the three. Then when you pick the glycerin is also white, but that one when you are pouring is like a starch. It comes as a starch. So when you are pouring, you can use this to differentiate them when the labels are not on it, as how this happened. So sometimes we have the gallon with the label, so that one you can easily differentiate them. So now we are pouring foam booster, and this side it looks So we are pouring.
It's like water.
Yes, so we pour 1 cup. So we are supposed to pour 4. So for phone booster we are pouring. So we put
4.
4 of the phone booster of this cap like this is supposed to be in the production. So we are pouring. So after pouring, you make sure you stir very well for it to mix. So after pouring the 4 of the phone booster, after pouring the 4 of the phone booster, we are now coming to measure 4 of this cap again, the grizzling to the production. So that's what I'm coming to. So we have the grizzling SS. So I'll pick one out of the number. Now we are coming to measure. So this one too, yeah, we are using 4 because the base was 4 kilograms. So this is the first cap. The first cap. So you pour it gently. Then you put it here. You measure another cap. Pour it gently. You pick another cap. So you pour, and the last one. So now it's finished. I'm picking the other gallon. Add to this. So when we are pouring alone, you can also see the nature of the full booster and then the grizzling. So this is how the structure of the full booster. So it's more than I'm to measure. So I have to pour back. I have to pour back. I top it up a little bit. You know, I pour. As you put it, you still stir in the same direction. You stir in the same direction. In the same direction. You make sure it mix well. From here we are almost done with the production. But you realize that it is still light. This is not the quality of thickness we want. So in view of that, we will add additional thickener to it. So if we are still adding the thickener with the water and it's still becoming like that, we will add the thickener raw without a water to it. So as we are producing and before we end and something happen like that, that is what we'll be doing. But if it doesn't appear in the video, then it means that the result was obtained successfully. Like the thickener, you can fetch. So you can fetch. No, here. You fetch, then you'll be pouring. So this, okay, you do like this. So you'll be seeing, then you fetch. So now you can pour. So when you are pouring, you realize that though it's thick, but this is not the thickener we want. The thickness of which we want it to be. So in view of that, we will still add additional thickener until we get to the stage of which we prefer. So now when we have it, we will be adding some of the cold water to it, and later we'll add a raw of the thickener to it. Then you see the changes in the thickness. So now I'm fetching the cold water.
That's the thickener.
So that's the thickener, the raw one. I'm adding, I'm coming to pour to add to the production. So that's 1 cup of additional thickener.
Raw state.
At the raw stage. So as it's stirring, I'll be pouring it inside. Is it okay?
Yeah.
It's becoming thick. So after this stage, then we'll be coming to add colors. The colors we have red, we have blue, we have green, we have orange. So sometimes we do not just choose the color, we check the preference of the customers and what we add. So after adding the color to it, we will leave it for the foam to settle down. So in view of that, after this stage, we'll be leaving it here, and then the following day, we will come and later add the fragrance. The fragrance. Then after adding the fragrance, now we can bottle.
Why don't you do it that same day? Why don't you add the fragrance and then the color? Why don't you add the fragrance that same day?
Sometimes the fragrance, their reactions are very high, so we prefer to be here to do it and bottle it, because sometimes when you just put the fragrance inside and you leave it, by the time you can, it will become watery. So that's the reason why we normally leave it. And then the following day, whilst we are there, we check. So immediately you do it, then you bottle it into the gallons like this. you bottle it into a gallons like this. Then now you cover it. You seal it before you cover it. So today we'll be using grain. And when you see this one, we have the powdered one and we have the liquid one. And this is a deep green when you see it like this. But now we realize that our customers do not like the deep one. So we are now producing the light one. So we will just be pouring a teaspoon of this into the product. So at the end, we'll be having something like this. Something like this instead of the deep like black as it appears here. Some of the kinds. So since we are not having the teaspoon now, we'll be using one half of this spoon, tablespoon. We'll be using half of the tablespoon. So first, hygiene is very important. So as we just pick it from the drawer or the shelf, you make sure you wash it very well before you use it. So we have our sink here. We wash it. After washing it, now we will try to pour. But before that, I would like to check how the thickness it is. Whether we should add a little bit water or we should maintain the thickness. Then we can now proceed by adding the color to it. Thank you. So you can bring it. So you realize that it is very thick. So as it is, we can also leave it like that. But for the sake of profit, we will also like to add a little bit of the cold water with preservatives to it. Then we will continue with that. So we add one.